Hello and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I have some breaking news coming out here for you. So, once again, we have yet another top official coming out in Europe and warning of potential war on the horizon with Russia. Okay, so this is the next person up here is Charles Michel. Okay, he is the European Council president and he's coming out here warning that Europe must prepare for war with Russia immediately. That's him right there in the photo on the right side of your screen, meeting with the former Prime Minister of Belgium. Okay. And so he's coming out here and saying as well that if we do not get the EU's response right and do not give Ukraine enough support to stop Russia, we are next. Okay. So I think what's happening here is that Europe is really starting to wake up to this real potential threat of war with Russia here. And we've had lots of reports saying that, like, in the next 5 years or 8 years, that potentially Russia could target a NATO nation or another Eastern Europe country, particularly like Moldova, right after Ukraine, or potentially up in the Baltics, maybe Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, one of those countries by Kaliningrad. So lots of warnings have been coming out, and I've reported on majority of these. Okay, and now we've got this gentleman here coming out, Charles Michel. Okay, so again, he's a European Council president, and he also says here, if Europe wants to exist in peace, it must shift to a war economy mode and significantly bolster defense capabilities in the face of the threat posed by Russia. Okay, so he said this just 2 days ago. Obviously, big warnings coming out here, and I want you to see this. So I have an article we're going to be going over here to give you some more information on what he's talking about. This is on the Kiev Independent. So Charles Michel, Europe must prepare for war. Okay, and it says here in an op-ed published in several European newspapers, Michel said U.S. support could no longer be taken for granted, and EU countries needed to take responsibility for their own security as they grapple with the biggest security challenge since the Second World War. If we do not get the EU's response right and do not give Ukraine enough support to stop Russia, we are next. We must therefore be defense ready and shift to a war economy mode. So look at that. A lot of countries are actually starting to do this already. We have reports. I think it's like the UK. They're going to be upping their defense spending. Many countries are starting to do this now. There's lots of calls for NATO to increase the recommended GDP or percentage of GDP of spending for defense. So they want to up it to like 3%. I think they had it at like 2% was the target, and now they want to up that to 3. So there's lots of calls here for shifting for a war economy already right now, okay? Because if you didn't know this, Russia's already in a war economy as of now, and they're at like 6% of GDP spending, okay? They're spending a lot of money on war right now. Obviously, they're at war with Ukraine, but they're already in a prime position to enter into a war should that come, right? And Europe is not really ready for that. Majority of these countries are barely hitting 2% or even less than that in terms of spending for defense. Russia is a serious military threat to our European continent and global security. If we do not get to the EU's response right and do not give Ukraine enough support to stop Russia, we are next, he added. If we want peace, we must prepare for war. So they're basically saying here, at least he is, that war is coming and we're going to have peace after, is kind of how I read that, right? So either that or they need to be prepared for war to have that as a deterrent to push Russia away from starting a war. Michel decried a decades long lack of funding and investment in European militaries, and despite military manufacturing capacity increasing by 50% since the start of Russia's full scale invasion, much more was needed to be done. While we beef up our defense capacity, we must ensure Ukraine gets what it needs on the battlefield, he wrote, adding that Ukrainian soldiers urgently need bullets, missiles, and air defense systems to control the skies. We must use the European budget to buy military equipment for Ukraine, and let's make use of windfall profits from Russia's immobilized assets to purchase arms for Ukraine. So, as far as I know, when it comes to that, with them accessing these assets that were seized at the beginning of the war that were Russia's assets, as As far as I know, they're moving this forward right now, and they're going to be using those funds here very soon to send to Ukraine and give them supplies. Elsewhere, on March 18th, EU foreign ministers agreed to allocate additional 5 billion euros in defense assistance for Ukraine in 2024 within the framework of the European Peace Facility, the EPF. Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba announced. The EPF has been a key tool for supporting Ukraine's defense capabilities since 2022, but has been largely depleted as member states disagreed on the best way to replenish it and unlock further cash for Ukraine. With the fund, we will continue to support Ukraine to defend itself from Russia's war of aggression and whatever it takes, and for as long as we need to, Joseph Borrell, the EU's chief diplomat, said in a statement. So obviously, here they're willing to do whatever it takes to defend Ukraine, and just all these warnings coming out to me are not really warnings of like fear mongering or trying to ramp up this narrative that Russia's going to potentially attack a NATO member or some sort of European country. But I think it's really to recognize the threat that obviously Ukraine just got invaded out of nowhere, right? That this could happen to another country, and I think that's what these countries are worried about when it comes to NATO nations, that they could eventually be invaded next as well, and then that would obviously drag NATO in. And then we also have some reports that I've done recently where Donald Trump, if he ends up getting elected here in November for the United States, there's a possibility he could either withdraw the United States from NATO, or he's also made very hawkish statements that if a NATO nation that's not committing at least 2% or more of their budget to NATO for defense spending, that he would not defend them if they were to be attacked by Russia. Okay, so I think they're starting to realize here that they may be on their own at some point if it goes that route, and if the US maybe is no longer supporting of NATO, whatever it might be, and they're trying to do the best they can to prepare their own countries for war because they could be on their own, okay? And this has happened many times in the past in history where countries are just caught off guard and they're not ready for war, and then they get taken over, okay? So let me know what you think down below. I'm curious what you're thinking regarding this. But once again, another major warning coming out from a top player here in Europe, and Charles Michel here. So he's warning that Europe must prepare for war immediately, right now. Okay, so again, let me know what you think. Comment down below your thoughts and opinions. If you got something out of this video, please smash the like button. And also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below and hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, I hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.